what is not achievable? That's the conversation we'll have. We have 3 guests to go on and navigate this conversation with us. And their thoughts and comments are always welcome here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
The best in the morning is on 92.7. Sunrise on 3FM. Mysterious girl, I wanna get close to you.
That foundation laid, we get into the meat of the matter. And a lot has been said about a 2/3 majority. But again, what exactly does that mean? If you're watching us on Facebook, you can follow along with the conversation. We'll have our slides and graphics up on our live stream. And of course, in due course, we'll have our guests also joining us to put some more flesh on the bones. Beyond what we know are the technicalities. If you look at the political landscape, what is that going to do for the psyche of the majority, for example? What is that going to do for the psyche of the minority, for example? They are now overwhelmed with the numbers on the other side, but they still certainly have a voice. All right, let's get into the graphics. What can a 2/3 majority do? That's 184 plus seats. So you've got constitutional and legislative functions. So with a 2/3 majority, the side can revise rejected constitutional instruments. Revise rejected constitutional instruments. And we'll get a breakdown. What does that even mean? What does that actually mean? Okay. Ratify treaties affecting sovereignty or national interests. And that is captured in Article 75 of our Constitution. Also, passing a resolution to declare war or peace treaties. Now, when it comes to governance and accountability, a 2/3 majority can impeach the president or the vice president. You'll find that captured in Article 69. Although in this instance, I struggle to see how, that could potentially materialize, but it is not impossible. A 2/3 majority can impeach the president or vice president. Removing the Speaker of Parliament. Removing the Speaker of Parliament. That is something a 2/3 majority can do. Without the approval of the other side, they don't need those numbers. Also, censoring ministers of state. You recall that process, Johnny, that was underway with Ken Oforiatta?
Yes.
That actually took place? Or there was some...
It did. There was some skirmishes around that, but it did not materialize. I do know that there were some more than 80 MPs that called for his sack, that they would not participate in the parliamentary debates regarding the budget, etc. Eventually, they were called into a meeting at Alisa Hotel, and the rest is history. But that censorship thing came up, and it became, a pull and push in Parliament, and it did not happen.
So actually,
that's how come he completed his full tenure in the office of Finance Minister.
I guess to placate the situation, I think he was hauled before a particular committee. Is that right?
He was. In fact, so if you take your mind back, Ms. Oforiatta did not participate in the parliamentary debate for the debate of his own budget that was presented. It was in the closing arguments that the leader on the majority side at the time and the minority, they had a pull and push, and Afenyomaking, in fact not Afenyomaking, Osei Mensah-Bonsu had to make the intervention for him to speak and address the House of Parliament, and the side of the minority did not agree, and they had a pull and push. But he served his full tenure because that censorship thing, even though had a matter that had been broached, did not happen. It did not happen.
It didn't happen. Okay. Article 82 captures that. Now, this one, very interesting. A 2/3 majority can suspend a member of parliament for misconduct. Do you know what this sends my mind to? The committee that was set up to probe the scuffle that ensued during the vetting process.
Right.
Muntu two mics, no? We had tables flipped over. That committee didn't give us its conclusion on what was going to happen to whom.
Right.
Is that something that will potentially or can potentially be unearthed with a 2/3 majority?
I'm looking at this parliament, this ninth parliament, with some different form of eye, and particularly with the benefit of my spectacles, and I'm looking at them to the point where this parliament has more NDC people than MPP people.
Correct.
To even the point where the independent candidate who is in, or independent MP who sits with in Parliament, has decided to do business with the majority side. That's Kwame A+ of Goma Central.
That's right.
I don't see anywhere, unless the unfortunate happens, but for members on the majority side to say that we are going against ourselves. I don't see that.
What about the other side? If they say, let's cast our minds back to that.
But what are their numbers, and what can they do with those numbers?
In fact, let's go back one step.
What are their numbers?
So a 2/3 majority can suspend a member of parliament for misconduct. And so this is any member of parliament.
Any member of parliament. So then the odds are against the minority.
That's right.
In this instance. And if the minority, I don't see that happening on the side of the majority, but on the side of the minority, it possibly could happen if they decide that they want to take on a member. But this scratch my back, I scratch your back, that happens in parliament every now and then.
Do you think that in this ninth parliament, that is still going to be the order of the day? I mean, given the sheer strength on the NDC.
Did they debate their ex gratia? Did they debate their car loans?
You say on certain items, the consensus is strong.
The consensus is big, it's huge, it's closely bonded. It doesn't happen.
Now, does this refer to only current members of parliament? Say, for example, if we wanted to be retrospective and issues that have happened in the 8th parliament, that's dead and gone. Am I right?
That's correct.
That cannot be resurrected in the 9th parliament, for example. All right.
So that, for example, even in parliamentary practice, that's why the LGBTQ,
the family rights and they have to start all
exactly
over.
Because it died with the previous parliament, and this is a new parliament. It has to, So in terms of parliamentary practice, but I'll leave that for Sammy.
All right.
Of the Parliamentary Network Africa to deal with it.
Let's look at constitutional and legislative functions. Now, this one I'm sure will pique all of our interest. A 2/3 majority can approve state of emergency declarations. We're talking about Galamsey.
Hallelujah.
We spoke with the president of UTAG, and they are still hard on the issue of Galamsey, insisting that a state of emergency must be declared across the areas where Galamsey is rife.
Right.
Well, that's something that the majority side can do very easily.
I don't know why the current dispensation is holding on to, that, because it was a promise that they made at the campaigns or during the campaigns that as soon as they come, because they were breathing down the necks of the previous government to
That's
say
right.
that, look, declare state of emergency. So why is the current government led by John Dramani Mahama, Professor Jane and Opokwajima not declaring state of emergency? It's a conversation that must be had, and they must stick to the promise that they gave. Regional boundaries. We have created new regions. I'm not sure anybody would want to go on that tangent. We had 10, now we have 16.
You don't think that we could potentially have a few more? Maybe we go from 16 to 20.
Please.
We even it out. The 2/3 majority can do that.
It's not about dividing.
So we have Greater Accra, then we have Greatest Accra.
Oh no, please, Helen.
Or Great Accra.
What we did, the 16.
So that Kaswa, we cut them off.
Kaswa is part of centralism, we beg you. Janet Quincy will not be happy. See, so what we did with the 10 to 16, we said we're going to give them 20 million per region to develop themselves, all the 6 that were created. What progress have they made? OT region, Western North, Bono region, Bono East, Savannah. What progress have they made, really? We need to start pausing to ask ourselves, is it a creation of a new regime that will bring progress to the people? Or is it a deliberate attempt and effort to make sure that the people actually see progress? We ought to pause to think about
We
these
can't
things.
authorize for authorizing sake.
No. Because the law grants it, really. And then you talk about, new regions is still there. Approving changes to parliamentary standing orders. They do it all the time. In fact, in the 8th Parliament, a lot of the standing orders were changed. In the 8th Parliament.
Okay.
Lots of the standing orders were changed. That's how come the composition of the committees in Parliament has changed as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, lifting parliamentary privileges for investigation of MPs. Obiniyem.
Shim.
Because now you've got a 2/3 majority and they can lift, because parliamentarians will go to parliament, they'll set up the microphone and they have that immunity remember at the top of the year, Reverend Intim Fojo, Parliament was not even in session, but he saw fit to address us from there.
That's right.
And tell us that there was some cocaine in the air.
And that matter has been left to go uninvestigated.
So an NDC majority, 2/3 majority can say, oh la la, there you are. We have lifted that privilege. They will come and pick you from there.
Will a dog bite a dog?
Interesting. Follow us on this journey. Okay. Reinstating MPs following suspensions or disciplinary action. And it's key to note that if any of these seem to be abused, do you think the people of Ghana will bare their teeth if we see that at every step this 2/3 majority is really flexing its muscles and instituting some of these privileges?
Until you change the laws, until you amend the laws and the rules, what is law remains the law. The law is the law.
The law is the law.
And the NDC has fought so hard to be able to achieve this. It does not lie in anybody's power or mouth to say they disagree with it, so much it be. No. It is there.
Approving key appointments by the president in controversial cases.
Well, we saw the vetting in 2020. 16 ministers was not supposed to have gone through the net. 16.
16.
Yes, but they all went through. Kojo Opon Kroma Hawa Kumsin, Attorney General at the time, Minister for Defense, Minister for Interior, 16.
You say that majority was using its muscle. This is not new.
You will have your say, we'll have our way.
Ratifying appointments to the Council of State. How does that sit with you?
I think that the Council of State should be cancelled. And this is a very controversial viewpoint, but the Council of State should be cancelled. You come from a royal home. Your chief does not come to be installed, or in my case, skinned, to say that I am selecting Abiam, Johnny, Kunzo Tiani, Sixtus to come and advise me. Do you understand? But when the president of the nation is elected, he now says, this one is former Chief Justice, I know him. Come here and advise me. So this one, look, in this current dispensation, Sophia Kufu, her ladyship is Chief Justice, former
right.
Chief Justice.
That's right.
Georgina Wood, former Chief Justice, right?
Indeed.
Good. There's Eni Yeboah, former Chief Justice, right? What informed the choice of one person out of the lot to come and advise me? There are former chief of defense staffs in this country. OJ, name them. What informed the choice of one? And I'm saying that no chief sits down to say, Helena Piampofo, you come and advise me. Before the chief is installed or skinned, the chief already has the advisors there. So I actually don't get this.
So for you, in fact, the whole Council of State, because
it should go.
Because of course, if I were president, the first person I would put on my council is Johnny, because Johnny.
Yes, people would sing your praise and people who would be happy with you.
Yes.
How has the Council of State helped us when for example, and I digress a bit. When, for example, President Akufo-Addo decided that we're going to build a national cathedral, this was his personal pledge. What did the Council of State think about it? What did they say? Did they tell him, boss, as for this one, don't do it? They didn't say that to him. They didn't say that to him. They didn't. They never breathed a word about it. They all sat and watched, and everybody was okay. With the benefit of hindsight, we know that that was a very bad decision, awkward decision to have been taken. But here we are.
So on that score, in fact, given that 2/3 power to ratify appointments to the Council of State, really neither here nor there, because what have we really achieved?
Yeah, but there are people who are also looking for their own set of rewards as members of the Council of State. If President Mahama wants to really prove to the people that he is Abebio and he wants to take very, very brutal decisions and strong decisions or brute decisions, and that will help all of us as a nation grow, he will use his parliament and the strength of his parliamentary numbers to cancel this. But the question is, will the dog bite a dog?
Will the dog bite a dog? Ruminate on all of this. And let's get talking as well on the socials. Okay, governance and accountability, sticking with that. Removing justices of the Supreme Court upon findings of misconduct. Removing justices of the Supreme Court. The 2/3 majority has that power to do this. Remove a justice of the Supreme Court upon findings of misconduct. So that the
law is the law.
So that one arm of government, can have that muscle over the other arm of government.
That's the whole point of checks and balances.
Okay.
The law is the law.
The law is the law. All right, then we also have passing of a resolution to investigate public officials.
I fully endorse that.
Why do you fully endorse that?
Well, if you're a public official, you have to be accountable to the people. If you're a public official, accountability lays on your lap, and you have to be accountable to the people. If you don't want to be accountable, then you have no business being in public office, because the people's taxes and the people's monies will be what will be used to take care of you. If you don't want to be accountable, why are you there? You have no business being there.
All right.
Here ends my sermon.
Do we have any more slides on this? All right, so we have oversight and ethical responsibilities. We'll run you through that as well. But let me say good morning and a very warm welcome to Dr. George Hamilton, leading member of Movement for Change. Doc, hello, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I'm checking to see if you have your yellow Bible with you this morning. I know the Yellow Army never moves without it.
We never move without it, but I was getting late, so I had to rush. Accra, early morning traffic.
If you don't leave at the right time, we'll be tied to you. But it's good to have you this morning.
Thank you.
In the studios.
I'm grateful being here. Let me say good morning to the man and the one and only Honorable Alan John Kojechi Martin, the leader of Movement for Change, and also my very good friend and a brother, Honorable Daniel Kwesi Ashiama. In fact, he's the one who brought me.
I see.
Yeah, he's a very
We're grateful
good man,
to him.
and he's listening.
Okay, well, good morning to him as well. Well, very soon, Movement for Change is going to be transitioning into a party.
Yes, of course.
Okay, Doc, the way you looked at me, I'm not too sure. But, I mean, that's what I'm hearing from the Yellow Army, that we're moving into a party very shortly.
It is good because, human being, we evolve with the changes. Anyone who is not open to changes is not a normal human being. And so as we grow, you will change. You agree with me that you did not grow up to be like this, or you did not just rise one day to become this fledged, full, beautiful woman that you are.
Indeed.
You transition from your infancy into becoming a young girl, adult, and now you are a married woman, maybe.
Not quite. We're working on it.
Yeah, good. So you've gotten to this stage by going through the process of changes and growing.
That's right.
So every political party or institution that deals with human beings will definitely have to go through that process. And so if you are stagnant, you are not making any progress. And any water, or when water becomes stagnant, the smells or the stench that comes out of it is very, very bad. And so we are transitioning.
Right.
So the time will come. I don't have the mandate to tell Ghanaians that this is the name of our political party or this is the line. I'm waiting for the Alan John Kojo Chirmantin to make that announcement so that we can also carry it along to share our views, our policies, and what we want Ghanaians to know, so that when the appropriate time comes, and Ghanaians will look at us and say, okay, you have these ABC policies,
right,
and we believe that it will help us, so we are going to vote for you.
Doc, I certainly agree with you. The only constant thing in life is change, but we certainly look forward to the evolution of the movement for change. I call them the Yellow Army. Yeah. We thought that after the 2024 elections, maybe the movement for change would take a back seat. If anything, we see you more active in the year 2025. You think that you could really become a strong third force, or in fact unseat the largest opposition party in the country?
Life is full of challenges and risk. If you don't take risk, you are not going anywhere. If you want to achieve something meaningful in life, then you have to put all your cards down, then you start playing them. Other than that, and you say you're going to take a backstage, you are waiting till an opportune time. Opportune times will not come at your beckon. You have to work towards it. So that is what Movement for Change is doing. We are taking the journey step by step, and then we'll get there. When the time comes, definitely the Lord will make a way and He will smile on us. And who knows? Who knows? In 1992, when NDC and MPP, when Ghana went back to democracy, the NDC had a president who was a certain head of state, the late Rollins. Where was Edubuayen? But he came into the scene forcefully. He worked his way out. Just chickened out by saying that the presidential elections was rigged, so they were not going to contest the parliamentary
That's
seat.
right.
And then from 92, you saw the NPP bouncing back.
That's right.
When you are defeated in any sphere of life, you don't sit back. You work towards. You have to do retrospection of why you lost, why you were defeated, and then make amends and put in necessary amendments or whatever you need to do to make sure that you revamp your institution or the work you did. Then you can make a progress. And so that is what I think we are doing at the moment.
Speaking of defeat and reorganization and, rejuvenation, now we see that the NPP side in Parliament, they are completely overwhelmed with the numbers on the majority side. We now call it a supermajority. That is the focus of our conversation this morning. I believe we had one more slide to look through. We have been talking about what a 2/3 majority can do. That's 184 plus seats. What really are the responsibilities? Now, we talk about oversight and ethical responsibilities. And if, again, you're watching us on Facebook, follow along with us. So, a 2/3 majority in Parliament can approve reports of parliamentary investigative committees. We've had a recent committee investigation on some scuffle that happened during the vetting process at the top of the year. We haven't gotten any conclusion to that. Will this 2/3 majority in Parliament mean that we get some conclusion to some of these investigative committee work? We wait and see. Also, demanding accountability from state corporations. That is a key one. Fellow Ghanaians, I know your interest has been piqued a two-thirds majority can demand accountability from state corporations. We've had calls to slice and dissect the work of our state corporations, how much money they rake in, and so on and so forth. Also, scrutinizing Auditor General's report on public funds misuse, and then you have initiating impeachment of public officials beyond the executive. All right, let's come back in studio and let's have a conversation with Doc. To kick things off, how do you assess the 9th Parliament so far? Given the work that has been done, it's still a baby parliament, if you will, some 7 months in. What is your assessment?
Well, the 9th Parliament, I believe that it has been plagued with some challenges, to say, looking at the vetting of the ministers. I remember during the vetting, I was in the Western region. I went there for some work. I was doing some work over there. And I just tuned in to the TV to check what is happening. And I saw these scuffles and fighting in Parliament. You see, it was unparliamentary on our honorable members, on the side of our honorable members fighting over position. Vetting. You are vetting the person to know his strength, whether he or she will be able to do the work being assigned to him or her by the president. So it is a place you don't fight when you don't understand. You have to articulate your points, note them down. If you disagree with anything, then you draw the attention of the chairman of the appointment committee, then for it to be addressed. But turning tables, causing loss, financial loss to the state, I believe it was not in the right manner. And my problem here is the minority always finding a way to boycott Parliament. It is not right. You have been voted to Parliament to enact laws for Ghanaians. You are representing your constituency, your people. So if by slight anything that you walk out, then it means that you are not serving the interests of your people. You are there to serve your own interest, which I believe it is not right. But overall, I'll say the Parliament, they are doing well. But let's wait and see, because we're still in the early days.
That's right.
7 months, if it were to be a baby, I believe the baby will still be
maybe at that time they are crawling.
Mommy's breasts.
That's right.
So they are still taking breast milk. So, but I believe that they will have to do more, because there is more on them. To whom much is given, much is required. So we are expecting much from them. They shouldn't give us any headache. And I'm expecting that the policies of the government, with the NDC having the 2/3 supermajority, they should be able to start cracking the whips, which are supposed to be done, and then prioritize their policies so that we can all be able to enjoy the 9th Parliament.
Does that give you cause for concern here, that we've got a 2/3 majority and that the majority side will simply bulldoze its way through, get all the bills that they want passed, whether or not it benefits the people, whether there is some parochial interest? Is that something that is on the back of your mind, that you think that, fellow Ghanaians should open their eyes to?
Yeah, it is, because if you are not careful, you see, there is a statement that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you are not careful, then you think that you have the ultimate power, you will override it on people. You will tend to abuse power. That is what we are saying, that the NDC should be very cautious. If you are not careful and power eats into your head. And that is exactly what happened to the NPP government. They were power corrupt, power drunk. You tell them anything, they'll tell you, we are not going to listen to you. You see, we have the seat, and so we'll do whatever we want to do. And when you get to that level, nothing matters to you again. You're only thinking about your interest. What you're going to get out of it. Now, Ghanaians voted the NDC into power by voting NPP out of power because they realized that the power that has been given to the NPP at the time to make Ghanaians feel okay, for us to be self-reliant, open jobs, establish jobs for us, and then everybody will have that freedom. At the point in time, the media, you were complaining that as a fourth estate of governance, you were being sidelined. Some of your members were being brutalized, manhandled. There were a lot of things going on, chaos in the system. It looked like at the time, as if that we were in the days of Israel when Israel had no king. And everybody was doing what pleases him or her.
And you said it was the power that was conferred.
You see, when I'm being given the power, it is for the service of the people, not for myself. As I sit here, there's a ministerial organization I had as the Christian province of Ghana, as an Archbishop Primate, the Worldwide Anglican. My authority is not to lord it over my fellow clergymen. I'm to serve them. You understand? So when you are given that mandate, you are to serve, not to be served.
Now, let's go back to the 8th Parliament just very quickly. You know, the numbers were quite tight. 137 with one independent candidate pledging to do business with the NPP side. So therefore, we call them the majority side, even though there were those that were vehemently opposed to that. They say the numbers are clear. You've got 137, one independent, but that's neither here nor there. We had to, at some point concede and say we've got a majority and a minority side. Do you think that this concept of a hung parliament is one that we should be clamoring for? Because we saw that it took a lot of effort to mobilize MPs to go to parliament because the numbers were so dicey. Would you prefer that over a majority, a clear majority? What are the benefits in an instance where both sides have to now build consensus?
Your question is one that is if you're not able to answer it clearly, others will take you on. But you see, for every government to succeed, you need numbers. You need numbers. Because you need your members of parliament to work with you. Your bills, you have to bring your policies to parliament. And you need your people to approve it.
That's right.
Good. So if you don't have the numbers and it's tied, how will you be able to bring development if you have someone whose interest is to make sure that you don't succeed from the other side? You will do everything possible. You may have all the genuine policies, good policies. You may have the goodwill for the people, but at the end of the day, when you don't have the numbers, that is where the struggles comes in.
But one might argue that, okay, because you don't have the numbers, now you're working extra hard. You've got to really convince the other side. That elevates, the whole conversation.
We were here in Ghana when allegations were being made that you have to coerce the other members from the other side. Sometimes with, let me use this word, you have to grease their palm.
Doc, I knew you were trying to be euphemistic. You mean, put something in the palms.
That grease their palm.
Fiscal coercion.
Exactly. To make sure that they side with you. That also amounts to corruption. Because you want to fight corruption, but you are using the same avenue to bring the people to side with you. If you know what you are going to do, will definitely help the majority of Ghanaians and also enhance your performance and give you that goodwill before the people. Why must you grease palms?
I think that's a point that we can certainly ruminate on. I think it opens up the scope of the conversation quite interestingly, that actually it goes beyond just getting the buy-in of the other side by conversation. Then you have to go a step further and open your purse, open your wallet.
this is very controversial, you know.
Indeed.
Because I know what I'm capable of. I know what I can do. So if I know what I can do, I should be able to convince you beyond monetary influence. Are you getting me? I know I can do A, B, C, D. So why should I persuade you with money so that you can actually give me your vote? And that is exactly what is happening when you go to polling stations in our internal party politics. You will have to buy your way through. Why should it be? And that is one of the things Alan John Kojo Chairmanton is against.
That monocracy that has overtaken our country.
Yes. You see, it is a dangerous thing. When money takes over democracy, anybody can buy his or her way through to position. If you have money, now that is what is becoming. If you have money, the highest bidder gets the seat, which is wrong. We should do away with that. And so the 8th Parliament, I give them credit for what they did, because they were able to put the government on its toes.
But we need to know at what cost. That's a very interesting thought there, Doc. Thank you for widening the scope. Let's get onto the phone lines and also speak with Sammy Obeng, the Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Helen.
How are you doing?
Very well, thanks for asking. Hope you're well too.
I am doing fantastic. Thank you again for joining us on the program. We're taking a look this morning at a 2/3 majority in Parliament, what we're calling a supermajority, trying to really visualize what that means for the people of Ghana. It's been bandied about here and there, but I think we want to really expand the conversation and see what the implications are. Before we get into the meat of the matter, though, it's been 7 months in. I think maybe a couple of months ago, I asked for your thoughts on how the 9th Parliament is faring. Some months have gone by. What are your assessments of the 9th Parliament?
Well, 7 months. You know that I've always maintained that, a proper parliamentary assessment from where I sit as somebody who works within a parliamentary monitoring organization would have to be on the back of, the facts, the figures, the proper analysis. Parliamentary Network Africa certainly, at the end of the ongoing meeting of Parliament, which ends sometime this week or next week at the latest, we'll be doing an assessment comparing the first 2 meetings of this current Parliament to its predecessor Parliament to look at how many bills had been passed, the speed at which some of these bills were passed, the issues of public participation and what have you, attendance issues and all of that. So it will be on the back of that we can speak to real facts and figures. But just a general overview, I think that things have been running quite fast. I'm happy that there have been some positives that we are seeing with the current Parliament, especially when it comes to institutional reforms and changes that will make the Parliament more open now with the Parliament television. There's deeper conversations around making Parliament more open to citizens and what have you. However, we also see traces or shadows from the past, traces from some of the bad things that happened in Parliament in the past being repeated again, issues around hooliganism at Parliamentary Committee on Appointments, which goes unattended, just like it was in the 8th Parliament. So it's looking like the kind of Parliament that may not necessarily be too different from its predecessor Parliament, but we just want to compare the numbers, compare the real parliamentary work to be able to see how, it's fared so far. And of course, once these analyses are out, you certainly should be sure that we'll be sharing them with those of you in the media we work with all the time.
Certainly, it's one that we'll be looking forward to. I mean, we have our own thoughts, but I know that you will capture it in a way that is all-encompassing. Let's talk about this 2/3 majority in Parliament, some 187 seats to the NDC. Sammy, from where you sit, what are the key legislative priorities that you would advise the majority in Parliament to pursue with this 2/3 advantage?
Well, top on the list certainly is the election of MMDCs, especially because it's for me, a matter that cannot go unattended in this particular parliament, looking at the number dynamics. I mean, in the past, the reason why parliament could not, change the provisions of the constitution to allow for the election of metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives was because whereas both sides of the aisle, the majority and the minority then, agreed to the need for those people to be elected, the disagreements were on the back of whether to be elected on partisan lines or non-partisan lines.
That's right.
Right? And so the two-thirds that was needed could not be achieved. Now the NDC, of course, they've always maintained their position that they want it on non-partisan lines. They have absolutely no excuse now, right? Because they've got the numbers when it comes to, and this is a matter that Ghanaians agree to generally, right? So for me, that's the first point. Of course, the second being other areas of the Constitution, especially the non-entrenched ones, and especially those ones that will come out of all of the constitutional arrangements or committees that we have established so far, the recommendations and what have you. This is the best time to be able to make some of these changes. Those ones that will just require, parliamentary decision-making, and those ones that receive consensus by the Ghanaian people, so that we do not veer into areas that are contentious, areas that Ghanaians do not agree with simply because they've got a majority. The third legislative priority areas should be those priorities that were in the manifesto promises that the party made, right, for which Ghanaians voted them into power. So those legislative decisions that would help drive some of those developmental agenda and intentions of the government. Except that in this third example, I would call for Parliament to be very careful in walking the path that we are beginning to see, which is deciding that because they've got the numbers, they can do some of these things with so much speed, without enough public consultation, without enough public participation, and without ensuring that the very people of Ghana who they represent have their voices, industry players have their voices, stakeholders have their voices in the lawmaking process. If they decide to go down that tangent simply because the numbers exist for them to do that, then we'll be having many more examples such as the 1 Ghana cedi levy on fuel, which although went through the system with speed,
that's right,
implementation became a problem because stakeholders were not prepared and stakeholders were not engaged. In the end, what happened? They had to hold on for a couple of days before implementation started. These same number of days could have been used for the consultation prior to passage, and the law would have come out finer, cleaner, and with a lot of preparation from industry players. So that should be a very good example. The one also relating to the scholarship bill should be another good example to show the NDC majority in Parliament that yes, you may have the numbers, but you are not representing yourselves or your party. You are representing the good people of Ghana who have specific expectations, who also want to have a voice in the legislative agenda that takes place on the floor of Parliament.
Very important point that you make, Sammy, especially concerning the 1 Ghana cedi levy on fuel. In fact, that bill was quite a speedy one that was passed sometime in the evening, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. Ghanaians woke up and we were confronted with this. And there was, of course, that pushback, like you rightly mentioned, making the buy-in tougher. Whereas, as you say, if there was some patience, some hastening slowly, if you will, we could have gotten there a lot painlessly. But
exactly.
Also, how
in the end, the speed came to naught.
That's right. They had to take a hard pause because you had the transport associations up in arms because they'd had to reduce prices and so on and so forth. And I think that's a key point. But how can the NDC leverage their majority to enhance parliamentary oversight?
So, first thing that needs to be established is that I really do not see the inclusion of the Ablek Manofa MP yesterday as going to change anything dramatically from what we have already seen from the beginning of the year. Remember that the majority side have crossed the two-thirds if you added the independent members of Parliament. The only difference now is that on their own as NDC, now should the independent members of Parliament decide not to do business with them going forward, they can still have their own party-specific majority to be able to do stuff. But I mean, from January 7th, we've had this situation, by the way, right? And that has informed even how committees of parliament have been set up. Remember that the standing orders of parliament requires that the numbers on committees are on the back of the numerical consideration.
That's right.
So, for example, if you have a committee of 15 members, then 10 will come from the majority side, making 2/3 of the number 15. 5 will come from the minority side. In fact, there are some committees of parliament that necessarily must be chaired by the majority or the party that is in government. There are some committees that must be chaired by the party that is not in government, but there
Indeed.
are those that are split on the basis of the number dynamics again, right? And so all committees of parliament have already been arranged on the back of this 2/3 anyways. And this is not going to change because yesterday we had a new member of parliament joining. So this arrangement is already good. I'm using committees because committees are the fulcrum around which parliamentary oversight revolves. It is these committees that actually oversees the various ministries, departments, and agencies of the executive branch. And if they would play their roles efficiently and effectively, which we've not seen too much of since the beginning of this year, by the way. And mind you, maybe because not much scandals are happening within the executive branch, we are not hearing or we are not paying too much attention to the weight of oversight, which is not really playing out. They need to up their game. But this is not only with the majority side, right? It's also with the minority side, because there are many committees in parliament that are now chaired by the NPP minority, despite the fact that they are in minority.
Right.
And if they have any opportunity, it is an opportunity to use those platforms as ways to at least ensure stringent oversight within those sectors of our governance and economy, so that Ghanaians will see the fruits of these kinds of oversight. I have always maintained that, as minority, really the numbers matter, but if the numbers are not in your favor, as we currently see, there are still other ways through which you can rally the people of Ghana to be able to do your oversight work. I mean, what did we not see in the past? Individual members of parliament were able to say that they are doing oversight work as individuals.
That's right.
They got things exposed. They rallied Ghanaians behind them, and Ghanaians followed and ensured that the changes that needed to be made were made on the back of individuals. So if you've got dozens of members of parliament, even in your minority, and if you're a focused minority that is not distracted by all the things that is also happening within party, within leadership and all of that, you can be able to play that oversight responsibility very well if you can carry the people of Ghana along by making sure that the things that you discover, you bring them to the attention of Ghanaians, and Ghanaians see that you are doing this in the national interest and not on sheer partisan basis to score cheap political points, especially when the issues are just spins and not necessarily truths or facts.
In fact, that was going to be my next question, and I think you've answered it entirely. I was going to ask, what would you suggest that the minority in parliament does, not to get lost in this sea of majority seats, if you will? The minority has consistently called itself a mighty minority, but really, given what we now know, given the numbers, how can they really, really make an impact? But you mentioned this, giving us some of the examples from the last parliament. You had the likes of Honorable Okudzeto Blakwa exposing many issues, many governance issues, and taking the people along. And you would say that is something to be replicated if the minority want to have a real relevance in the governance processes.
Absolutely. And the minority, unfortunately for us, this 7 months is showing some very interesting trend. The first is that we have a majority that is kind of overwhelmed by the numbers that Ghanaians have given them. And, they're still brewing in that excitement. And so sometimes it takes them off the off guard a little bit, the excitement.
Sammy, how does that manifest, this sort of relishing in and kicking their feet in excitement? And
well, I mean, we are seeing, for example, how, we spoke about how because the executive branch has brought a bill to parliament, and it's our party, let's just rush it through. damn the consequences. Let's not listen to what the people are saying. The same similar mistakes that we saw in the past, and we cited the one Ghana city fuel levy as a very clear example of. So that excitement is there, and I think that the majority must come to the level where they are calming down and realizing that they are governing at a time when Ghanaians are giving them the overwhelming numbers, at a time when Ghanaians' expectations of them is very high, and at a time when Ghanaians will punish really severely if they fail to do their work. But unfortunately, this also happened at a time when the minority is also so distracted. So many distractions on the side of the minority, from their party internally, from what appears to be some leadership situation issues and what have you. And these distractions may not necessarily give them the opportunity to concentrate on hardcore parliamentary stuff. And so sometimes you see some of the parliamentary decisions they make, be it walkouts or boycotts or unnecessary, in my opinion, unnecessary show of bravado, which does not advance the work that they are expected to really do as a minority in parliament. If you have a parliament where the majority has their own situations as I have described, and the minority is also having its own situation as I have described, if you do not take care, we'll be landing into some form of a problem, going into the future. And that's where you and I come in. Those of you in the media, those of us in civil society, the general public listening. If we do not remain vigilant, if we do not monitor and track parliament and hold them accountable to their task, then we may wake up, and by the time we smell the coffee, the horses would have already bolted.
That's an interesting thought, Sammy, because I think for many Ghanaians, we understand the importance of a strong opposition. We saw elements of that in the last parliament. For example, we've talked about the oversight from certain members of parliament exposing certain ills and rots. I don't know whether you've also maybe tested the pulse and you're getting this feedback that if the minority doesn't focus, because like you mentioned, they're very distracted on getting us that quality oversight, a lot could be happening on our blind side. We're not getting that needed, oversight, that needed, work from the opposition to keep government on its toes, because they've got so many other things that are taking their focus, and that will ultimately be detrimental. Would you say that, though, the overwhelming numbers on the majority side have had a great impact on the psyche of the minority? You talk about unnecessary bravado, but is it something that the minority has to do to have some confidence in this governance space?
Oh, yes. I think that it's not a lost situation. Yes, we've seen what has played out in the last couple of months. Unfortunately, in a couple of days, Parliament will be going on recess, and a long one at that, right? This would be a good time for them to sit and reflect and to be able to really, really, really speak to themselves and ask the tough questions. 7 months in opposition, 7 months as minority in Parliament, is this really the kind of minority exhibition, that we can be able to put out? And if not, what can change? What must change? What must we do? Those reflections should now be seen being exhibited when Parliament returns, so that we can see a minority that is not just mighty because somebody has given it a nomenclature, but mighty because its actions are exhibiting that it is indeed mighty for and on behalf of the people of Ghana.
Very important. Now, there's something I wanted to also pick your thoughts on, and I've got Dr. George Hamilton in the studios. He's a member of the Movement for Change, and I was picking his thoughts on the constitution of the 8th Parliament vis-a-vis that of the 9th Parliament. So in the 8th Parliament, we had 137, one independent candidate, which meant that at every given point in time, the majority, I put that in quotes, had to fight for some consensus. From where you sit, is that a better model than having an absolute majority, for example, because then you have to get the buy-in of your colleagues on the other side? Or is that an avenue for more what we call moneycracy? Because now you've got to give some fiscal inducement, if you will, grease my palm, scratch my back, you scratch my, all of that sort of thing.
The cuteness of the pudding like this is always in the eating. We've seen how the eating of the 8th Parliament and that, narrow numbers, played out. for parliamentary business. We all know, we've all been witnesses of what happened. It's important that a legacy document of that particular parliament is put together to be able to record this. We are now also in an era of a supermajority. This is not an era that is completely new to us. We experienced this in the first and second parliament, essentially. However, those were different eras, completely different eras, and this is a new era. I believe really that the end of this 9th parliament will really show how well we can compare it with the 8th parliament and which of the models, as you put it, would be the best of models for us. I always say that God in his divine wisdom decided at some point we needed that slim majority. We saw what it brought us. He's now decided that we need that extreme majority. We are yet to see what that will bring us. So that as Ghanaians, we can be able to decide. Who knows? There may also be another time when he may decide that we probably need an executive branch that is controlled by a different party as compared to the legislative branch. So one party has majority in parliament that does not have the executive branch and all of that. All of these models can play out. How well we use it would also determine how good these models have worked out. But how well Parliament use it will be a factor of what Ghanaians demand, from our members of Parliament at all times. So that when members of Parliament in this majority Parliament knows that even though we've got the numbers, if we dare bring in something that Ghanaians will not want, they will bare their teeth at us. Then they would sit and be measured. And I think that all of us must know that we've got the power as people, as civil society, as members of the public generally, to be able to show members of Parliament that indeed, if we don't approve of what you do, we can bare our teeth and you dare not defy us. That will be the only way that we can see the true essence and advantages of the various models. But for me, I would like to compare this model, as you put it, with the previous 8th Parliament model, when all of them have had the opportunity to play 4 years, and we've seen what the benefits are.
And Sammy, finally, my last question to you. How can the NDC majority effectively engage citizens and constituents whilst maintaining efficiency in governance?
Well, citizens' engagement is actually a factor of efficiency, I always say. It is always important that members of Parliament get to recognize that they have a principal-agent relationship with the citizens who elected them. There are 30 million plus of us. All of us cannot enter the parliamentary chamber. That's the very reason why we selected individuals. By selecting them, it doesn't mean that we think that they are all knowing, all wise, and because of that, whatever they think and say should be what holds sway. By selecting them, it means that you are representatives and you must learn the act of consultation so that when you go, you are engaging on a strong footing. So public participation, citizens' participation in the work of Parliament is extremely important. And if the majority gets to recognize that this will be one of the tools that they can use to always carry the citizens along. They won the elections because they carried the citizens along. If by leading, they decide to forget the citizens that they carried along to win elections, then it comes back to haunt them. And citizens have shown, Ghanaians have shown, that they cannot forgive when you do things and do it wrongly, even after they've complained over and over and over again. And so they need to be guided and be minded.
Certainly, Sammy. Thank you so much for your thoughts this morning. And we've got a lot to talk about as the months progress. I know you're doing your own oversight, and we look forward to speaking with you at a later time.
Same. Very well. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well. Have a wonderful Wednesday. Again, that was Sammy Obeng, Executive Director, Parliamentary Network Africa. We're talking about a 2/3 majority in Parliament and what exactly that means. Well, back in studio, I've got Dr. George Hamilton still here with me, leading member of the Movement for Change. And he already has, brought some interesting perspectives to the conversation. Is there anything that you maybe disagree with Mr. Obeng on all that he had to say? And that's his work, this oversight of Parliament.
I must say that he's done a good job to the questions that you put out to him. I'm in support of all that he said, because we need the checks and balances in the Parliament, whether you're a micro minority or minority
Doc.
or super majority. We need the checks and balances so that we can all be able to give a good service to our people. Other than that, the NDC would always want to have their way. And if you have a way, you can have your will. But you see, if you have a will and a way and you don't utilize it well, a time will come. You may want to have that way, you will not be able to access it. And I want the parliamentarians to know, whether the minority or the majority, to know that they are in a relationship with Ghanaians. And relationships are like doors. If you don't close it gently, a time will come you will need to access the door. You will not be able to access it well. General elections is just around the corner. We have 3 years more to go.
That's right.
But 3 years can be 3 days. It can be 3 hours. By the time you blink your eye, 3 years is here. We are heading towards election. You have to go back to the same people that you maltreated, downtrodden, and then you want to seek their mandate again. So we should tread carefully and cautiously, because we have a lot to do there, and they have a lot to offer Ghanaians.
Now, Sammy made a comment about the minority's role so far. Now, he assesses that this minority has been too distracted with so many issues, internal party issues here and there, and for that reason, they haven't been able to mobilize in the way that is effective enough to provide us that much needed oversight. Do you also have that same view, that the distractions have been plenty? You talked about the walking out from Parliament, and you say that's not too savory. What is it going to take to get the minority to realign its thinking in the interest of Ghanaians, so that we get that much needed oversight also from them?
So you have to set your priorities right. There's what you have to do, have the immediate term, long term, and then the short term policies or whatever you want to do. And so, yes, I agree that the NPP recently had their annual National Delegate Conference.
That's right, just over the last weekend.
Yes, approving 53 out of 55 amendments they sought to do. So they want to do things fast. They want to make sure they get their flag bearer, and so that they can really reorganize and mobilize themselves. But they should not lose the sight of the fact that they have work to do in Parliament. You understand? Their core mandate now, yes, they are answerable to their political party, but at the end of the day, Ghanaians are watching and they are taking notes. What you are doing in Parliament now will determine whether you are ready for power or not. Because if at the slightest provocation, you walk out, you stage a walkout, and you are doing press conferences.
You have an issue with the press conferences?
I don't think it will help. That precious time that you're going to use to address, organize press conferences and walking out, you can use that same time to argue your way through in Parliament and make the work more even easier. You see, you have to seek the favors of the people. So if the people you are serving, you are giving them a disservice by walking out every now and then, you are not even helping yourself. You are staging a walkout. At what material moment or point will you be able to come back to Parliament? By the time you come back, the two-thirds majority, they've already passed the bill. They've had their way because you are not there. A clear case in 1992, the NPP said they will not contest. Today, it is one of the things they talk about that had I known, if they had known, they would have contested.
You say there's regret on the part of the NPP for that decision.
Because the constitution that we have now, one will argue, but I stand to say that it was drafted, approved by the NDC members of Parliament in 1992, with the super majority they had. That I hear others saying that the 189 compared to 184 then was not a super majority. In 184, is a super majority. Then 189 was a super majority.
Because in fact we had even fewer seats at that point, right? So super majority.
Yes, they had their way. So if you don't want the current super majority members of parliament that belongs to the NDC to have their way, then keep staying in parliament and stop staging the walkout. I am expecting the Honorable Afenyo-Markins to do better. And my own sister, Apieje,
Honorable Patricia.
Yes, to sit with the caucuses and tell them, listen, if we continue staging walkout, it will not help us. It will not help the party. Because we need a strong opposition to critique the government, to appraise the government. You are doing well or you are not doing well, so that we can also have a space. If not, and it goes the one way. We have a lot to put in our bags.
Now, how should the NDC ensure inclusivity, especially for smaller parties and for independent voices?
You see, one of the things they have to do. Let me take you back.
Sure.
But what this means for Ghana in terms of the supermajority, the NDC. One of the things that I foresee them going to do is to push through significant changes to Ghana's constitution, potentially altering the country's governance framework. That's one of the things I see them going to do, because they will use the numbers to push this agenda. And one of the agendas is to legislative agenda. That with unparalleled strength in parliament, the NDC can prioritize its policy initiatives. Now, when they do that, they are to make sure they drive on the national development, to give development. If you want, the NDC really want to stay in power after 2028, then they have to do this. But you see, like I said, absolute power corrupt absolutely. If they are not able to do this, and then the checks and balances doesn't come in, that is when you need the opposition parties to do that. Now, what the NDC must do is that they have to accept the views of the minority parties. Don't just say, they are making noise. For these ones, they know how to make noise. We'll have our way. And when the noise settles, when the dust settles, we'll still have our way. No.
You say they should take a critical interest in what is coming from independent voices and for the minority.
Yes. Because you see, you need their voices to shape yourself. Now, if you are doing something and you think it's right, and you don't get anybody to check you, or what you are doing, the name again, your name?
Helen,
you may think that you are towing a certain line. To you, it is right. There's a way that seems right in a man's eyes, but the end thereof, you get me? So you should, your focus should be the end, not the beginning per se. And in between the start and the end is very important. That's when you need people to tell you are doing this. But if you have people who are always dancing to your tune,
that's dangerous.
Who are always drumming your good deeds, woe unto you if every man loves you, if every man says good things about you. That's what the Bible says. And so you should be able to accept the views of others and then make analysis, sit down and check. Okay, this that I'm doing, is it right? What Ghanaians are saying, is there any iota of truth in it? What can I do to change or turn things around? If not, you will find yourself walking on that tangent, and you get yourself in a ditch. And by the time you realize, you're already in the mud, and you will find it very difficult in coming up. Now, in the 2024 elections, the campaign time, it was very difficult in certain of the areas for the NPP to campaign, because When they mount the pulpit, the platform, their messages hit rock and return back to them. Ghanaians were saying that we voted for you and you gave us bad governance. You were increasing fuels here and there. You are not listening to us. When you were bringing the e-levy, we told you it will not help. When you were doing this, we told you it will not help. The NDC said something to the MPP that they will not do rigorous campaign. All that they will do is that they will play the tapes of the MPP's campaign messages that they had promised before.
In fact, that's what they ended up doing. So on a lot of the campaign, you would hear the voices of the opposition.
I was in Western North. I was a belt coordinator for Western Region and Western North for Movement for Change. And almost all the villages I visited, they were playing it. They were playing the voices of the former Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and other leading members of the NPP. They were just playing it. And it worked for them because they were listening. And the NPP, on the other hand, did not. They thought that they were in power, so they could break the 8 easily, and the 8 break them.
Instead of breaking the 8,
broke them.
So that's a key point. You say that what happens eventually in 2028, or what the outcomes will be, actually hinge on what is happening now, whether or not the government actually listens to dissenting voices. That will come back to haunt them, like we saw in the last election. So that if you had turned a deaf ear to those who you say, oh, these are only detractors, then you'll find that actually it can be used against you and will be used against you.
Exactly.
Very interesting thoughts there. I want us to take a look at some of the slides that we had up initially, and Doc, I want to pick your thoughts on some of the things that we've mentioned that a 2/3 majority can do, and of these items, what you would consider as key or priority. So you've got, for example, and I'm looking on the screen, if you're watching us on Facebook, follow along with us, lifting parliamentary privileges for investigations of MPs. You've got reinstating MPs following suspensions of or disciplinary action, approving key appointments by the president in controversial cases, ratifying appointments to the Council of State. In fact, a litany of other things. You got revising rejected constitutional instruments, ratifying treaties affecting sovereignty or national interest, passing a resolution to declare war or peace treaties. We'll put up some more on the screen. Doc, please ruminate on that for me. Let me quickly cross over to our phone lines and speak with Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otri, political analyst and senior lecturer, UCC. Doc, hello, good morning.
Good morning, Erin.
Hope you're doing well.
Well, I'm still in preparation for my mother's burial this weekend, so...
Oh, commiserations, condolences. Condolences. But thank you so much for making time for us this morning and joining us on the program. We're sinking our teeth into the issue of a 2/3 majority, what the NDC majority is currently enjoying. Now, we know that on their own as a party, they have that majority, even without the alliance of the independent candidates. Before we get into the meat of the matter, let me also pick your thoughts. I've asked all my guests this morning. So far, 7 months in, how do you assess the efforts of the 9th Parliament?
Well, apart from the issue, let me first of all say good morning to your good self and to your listeners. Apart from absenteeism that you are witnessing, I think it hasn't been anything different from, the 7th Parliament. With the 8th Parliament, we are aware of the intricacies, the dribbling, with respect to a majority that did not really have a majority, and so on and so forth. And you could remember the acrimonies here and there, to the point that, MPs deciding to go on independent kind of listing, and then suddenly the Supreme Court is asked to intervene And obviously, we all know what happened. The rest is state history. I have a firm belief in Mr. Aban, the Honorable Speaker. I think Mahama Yaraga is equally on top of his brief. With respect to the equipping system, Mr. Dafimapo is everywhere. He gets the details right. Perhaps where he's experiencing some shortfall is to encourage using the whip system to ensure that the NDC majority represent in Parliament when it comes to issues of importance. Then if you go to the minority side, I think that everybody is aware of the overarching influence of Mr. Afenyamarkin. And I am not too enthused about his belligerent style and his warmongering pronouncement that he's been making, and some threatening words like, 2028 is just around the corner. So it's like if certain things went wrong in your government and a new government has come, as a way of accountability, the nation should not benefit from that. And listening to the speech that he gave at the delegate conference, that was a splendid speech, with the exception of saying that if you touch one, it touch all. It doesn't make sense to me, because accountability is the only means by which the ordinary Ghanaian will benefit from the loot of those who are given, opportunity to serve the nation. Whether it is their government that is in power, they will do same if the previous government, did not do certain things right. So I don't think that you touch one touch, or for me, it's a preaching of lawlessness. And as a minority leader, we shouldn't in any way make such pronouncement. So by and large, if you look at another breath, he also has that kind of belligerent style. An alma mater of the University of Cape Coast. Patricia is too sober for my liking. And there's someone
too sober. I mean, given what you describe as belligerence and overzealousness, do we not need that calming presence, that sober presence to balance out the minority front?
Yeah, I agree with you. We need somebody like that, somebody who has that soberness to be able to prevail upon the men who will be warmongering, so they tone down. But idea of withdrawing from the opportunity given to represent the ECOWAS Parliament, well, somebody who, if you look at the vetting proceedings of the ministers, you could see every now and then she will be asking questions about female representation.
That's right. That's a cause she champions at every given opportunity.
So is it not ironical that you have been given such an opportunity? And especially when Mr. Yaraga says that the convention is that deputies are given the opportunity to represent.
That's right.
And it appears to me that at the time that Afenyamarkin was given that opportunity, he was deputizing Oseche Mensah-Bonsu. So if he's now he became the substantive majority leader, he was still there, now substantive minority leader, well, only time will tell. I'm very sure that she might have crumbled under some kind of pressure.
That's an interesting perspective. On that front, we see how things unfold. But what are the implications then, from where you sit, of a 2/3 NDC majority for the opposition's effectiveness? Do you see that they will be stifled in their work in Parliament?
Well, I don't see how their work could be stifled. Or do you mean their absenteeism, or the majority itself?
Do you think that the sheer numbers on the majority side will completely overwhelm the minority side? Yes, they do call themselves a mighty minority, but with the numbers that we have, I mean, the majority can simply have its way. How do you see that impacting the work of the minority in terms of keeping the majority side on its toes, on keeping the executive on its toes, and so on and so forth?
Well, we expect, something of that sort to keep the executive on it too. That one is very important. The legislature, they represent all of us. The executive does not. So the legislature will have to ensure that they keep the executive on it to ensure that bills that are inimical to the progress of this country and probably to the benefit of an individual or some individuals do not see the light of day. The other part, I think we have a president and the vice president that I don't believe they may want to use the sheer two-thirds majority to the disadvantage of this country. I don't see in them. If probably we are in the presidency of Mr. Akufo-Addo, maybe I would have exercised some kind of bitterness. But as it stands now, we are talking about someone who has been given a second chance. And so far, we are not hearing scandal. So far, they have been very prudent in terms of even government expenditure. I even asked myself, you are cutting equal, coupons that will be given to political appointees and other things. Well, are you not doing too much to your own detriment? But let's see. So all of these, I expect that they will be quantified for us to see either in the budget review or in the next year's substantive budget. So the speaker that we have will equally, be leading the majority itself and the minority in such a way that we do not have the overbearing influence of the two-thirds majority of the NDC on issues that are of importance to the country. So maybe it is early days yet. Even when the MPP did not have the numbers, in periods that the NDC boycotted, they still went ahead, to do business. Well, in the 8th Parliament, unfortunately, we have a majority that boycotted Parliament about twice or thrice or so. That was quite strange and interesting. But I think that the NDC, they are very careful because they know there is going to be a period of transition. And that idea of transition will influence the way they do their things. Because not long ago, in the 7th Parliament, somebody had overwhelming majority. And then suddenly it became a hung parliament.
That's right.
Today, you also have that overwhelming majority. So you always have to be thinking yourself like what the president does, that he will want to do right by the people of this country and to leave a better legacy. I don't think that the current president will be going on a tangent, of using the numbers to do certain things that are unthinkable with respect to our constitution and so on and so forth. He wants to leave a legacy. And that is the path that he is currently treading. So, though it is early days yet,
right,
we need to see, but I pray, I am very cautious and optimistic that they will use their numbers to the advantage of Ghanaians, not to their personal advantage.
Now, given what you've just said then, what strategies should the opposition deploy to remain relevant and influential?
Dialogue. Consensus building, yes. Dialogue and consensus building will be the best approach because... You
mean like press conferences? Should they organize more press conferences and dialogue with the people? Is that the sort of dialogue you refer to?
They should be talking to the leadership of the majority. Unless maybe the issues that they discuss in the background do not end the way they think it should end. Somebody has government to run and a state to run. They cannot run the state on the whims and caprices of the minority. There must have been a good reason why Ghanaians voted overwhelmingly for the NDC. That path that they are charting is what they must chart. If there are bumps, ups and downs here and there, that is expected. But you presented a manifesto, so you chart that path to the benefit, of the ordinary Ghanaian. As for the whims and caprices of the minority, yes, of course, the Speaker has promised to protect the super minority, so to speak, and to ensure that they also become relevant. But all the same, press conferences are all part of the game. And boycotting, all of these things draw attention. The mind of the ordinary Ghanaian, is drawn onto some of these things. But if at the end of the day you do not really make sense, then certainly you are just washing your dirty linen in public. I don't know if they may want to change the minority leader and probably Wager Bawi. I think they may need a new direction. If they really want to remain relevant, they may need a new direction.
Would you say only the minority leader, should be changed, or would you say overhaul the entire minority leadership in Parliament?
Well, you see, when it comes to experience, in terms of majority and minority chief whip, Mr. Adam Prayer has been there. Maybe they can decide to take that decision. A total overhaul. You see, could be total overhaul as a way of confusing the majority, because they wouldn't know the style of the new crop of leadership that they will have brought.
Right.
Remember how the national executive changed the architecture of the minority leadership then. It became a problem. But for me, I realized that the introduction of Dr. Tufortum then as a minority leader was because they wanted the economy to be the champion of the campaign.
That's right.
And of which I explained, and Mr. Haruna, what's they called? Untaka, they understood me. I did that explanation on TV3. And they understood me very well. And today, you see where they are. One is the Minister of Education.
That's right.
One is Interior. If you had rocked the boat, obviously you wouldn't have won the elections. And so I think that if they really want to become more relevant, I'm not saying relevant, they want to be more relevant, then they must be able to change the architecture of the leadership. I think they can do so if they have what it takes. Maybe they may want to wait when they are done with their presidential elections. I don't know. But that is how I think they should go.
That would certainly make for very interesting conversations. Let's see if your predictions do come to pass. But Doc, we're very grateful for your time this morning. And we wish you all the best with the upcoming funeral arrangements. And again, condolences. But do have a wonderful Wednesday. And thank you again.
Thank you.
Dr. Jonathan Asante-Oatri is a political analyst and senior lecturer at UCC. Let's come back in the studio and discuss some more with Dr. Hamilton. Time check, though, it is some 25 minutes to the top of the hour, 10 a.m. This is still 3FM Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. Keep engaging with us on the socials. We see all of your thoughts and comments. Shortly, we'll be wrapping up on this conversation and speaking with Godwin Asideba. He has yet another explosive and exciting piece to share with us. But Doc, as we wrap up on this, I know I had a list of some issues that the two-thirds majority can contend with. Very quickly, what is top on your mind that you think should be addressed by this two-thirds majority?
One of the things I would like the two-thirds majority to look at is avoiding abuse of power. That's one. Because they should be mindful of the potential for abuse of power. They should be mindful about that. You have the numbers, so if you are not careful, you would want to use your numbers to abuse or have your way, to bamboozle your way, as you rightly said earlier on. And so they should be very careful and take steps to prevent it. It can help them protect democratic institutions and the rights of citizens. That is one. Fostering national unity.
Most certainly, Doc. I think we could go on and on and on, but we'll have to schedule a part 2. There's so many other issues I think we'd love to pick the thoughts of Movement for Change on. They say very soon they will be unveiling their new face, their new character, and we're certainly following them on in this journey. Doc, I know you're not going to be a stranger to the platform. We've thoroughly enjoyed the discussions this morning, and next time we call on you, you'll be here. I know that.
I'm always available.
Fantastic. Dr. George Hamilton is a leading member of the Movement for Change. He joined us this morning to slice and dissect the issues of a two-thirds majority in Parliament. Of course, all these conversations immortalized on our YouTube page. Do give us a follow. There's more coming your way right here on 3FM Sunrise.